Hey guys, welcome to our Ants Team Life training for the third week in April. Finally, I want to say spring is here, but it's just not happening. As you can tell, I'm still in full blown sweater, tank, jacket with hoodie. But we're making do, right? We're pulling through, managing to stay anchored with all of this crazy wind and crazy weather that's happening. I know that there's been a lot of wicked weather all across the U.S. So shout out to all of you guys all over, for just hanging in there and doing, continuing to work towards your goals and not let all of the madness happen. Because I know how easy it can be to fall into a system of, oh, the weather outside is not perfect. So I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to work my business. I'm not going to build. I'm not going to grow. And on the flip side, I kind of laugh at this because in the winter, on the one side we have, oh, the weather is not perfect, or during these transitional times where it's, you never know what you're going to get when you go out. We have the people who are like, well, it's windy, it's rainy, it's not ideal conditions. And then same people, summer comes around, when it's beautiful and nice outside, it's like, oh, well, it's so gorgeous outside, I can't do this, I want to go to the beach. It's like, yeah, we all want to go to the beach, but you can't not work both times a year. So shout out to those of you again who are still working it, still hustling, still building your businesses. And I do want to take a minute to shout out. Actually, I'm going to give everyone a chance to come on in and shout out your own wins for the week, because I don't want to be constantly blowing up everyone's spot and and throwing you guys under the bus. You guys are adults. We are more than capable of celebrating our own achievements and our wins. And we are going to talk a little bit about that this week, a little bit more about that, because um, we're always talking about goal setting and goals and your wins and your successes and your achievements, and how important it is to be in the right mindset and do the things that set you up for success, because really and truly it all begins up here. Whether the battle is won or lost, how well you do it, it begins with your own belief window, your own mindset, your own willingness and determination to succeed. So um, and also, your own acknowledgement of your successes, because if you constantly feel like, nothing's working, like you're a failure, then guess what, unfortunately. So I've actually been working on that recently, getting a little bit better at acknowledging the wins, because we talk about them here once a week, we share and celebrate them, but there really is like a mental battle on a day-to-day, hour by hour, sometimes minute by minute, time frame, to get ourselves in the right mindset to overcome that little person on your shoulder who's like, well, you didn't, you couldn't, you can't, you're not, it's not, nothing is happening, etc., etc. So for me, I've sort of been trying to get that little monkey off my back and, lock him in a box to keep him out of my way, because I definitely do see the effect of my mindset on my actions. So I've sort of been going through my own mental winter internally. That same mindset where my own mind is creating not the most ideal conditions to work with. But I am realizing and recognizing that it is mental, and that I do need to break down the barriers and the mindset that is keeping me from doing the things that I need to do. And it varies. Some days I need to just say, shut up, get off my shoulder. We're going to get to work. We're going to knock this out. We're going to do like a power hour. And some days it's like, you know what? You need to just sit down and have a cup of coffee, read, do some personal development, switch off the social media, the Instagram, the Facebook, the Twitter, the cell phones, and disconnect and have like a quiet time moment. So you sort of have to get a feel for what it is that your needs are when you're going through those moments. But I do have some tips that I'm going to share with you today to sort of help you break out of that. I hope I have tips. I had them on my cell phone, which is now somewhere not, oh, you I use it as a bookmark in my book, which is me doing personal development. So Let's see who we have on our chat. Gina, welcome. Girl, I've been looking for you. Are we going to Rep Fest or what? Sorry to put you on blast like this. Chris, how are you? Welcome, welcome to our Ants Team Live training. So good to see you guys. Shout out to the Ants. So today we're actually going to be talking about your expectations and how they affect your actions. So this actually might be a short discussion. I always say that. I feel like I always say that every time. I'm like, yeah, today's gonna be short, guys. And then an hour and a half later, I'm like, okay. So we sort of went over our time. But it's just because I enjoy talking to you guys so much and hearing your feedback. And sometimes I'll say something that will trigger something in you guys. And you'll type it in, which is lovely. I love that. Don't wait till after the conversation to private message me your great idea, because then I'm not going to remember to come back for next week and repeat it. And everyone here who's live on the chat is not going to get a chance to enjoy what you're sharing. So if you have an idea, share it. Don't worry about what other people think about it. If it's something that triggered a moment with you, something that resonated with you, something that you were like, oh yeah, this is great, or something that you wanted to just jot down and keep for yourself, share it here in the chat box. The chat box is live, so others can see it, and it's great because they will benefit from it too. And even if you're watching, like if you're watching the replay after we go live, share it in the comments box. I do go back and I do read those. If you even have questions, post it. I'll answer, or if I don't catch it, somebody else might jump on and answer too. We learn so much from each other. It's really like, don't do yourself and the other people here a disadvantage by keeping your ideas to yourself, because there's no, as long as it has something that triggers a feeling, an emotion, a thought in you, then it is a good idea. There's no, like, don't feel like your idea isn't worth sharing, and definitely don't feel like, because this is my YouTube channel, that you guys can't share. Also, on that note, guys, be sure to subscribe, because then when I go live, you guys get the little notification and you will get to see all of the videos that are coming out as they come out. So do not forget to subscribe, guys. One family here. So today I wanted to share a quote that I came across. I actually wanted to share two quotes, but the first quote was, I wrote it in my journal, and I've been doing this lately. I've been trying to find one quote each week at least that sort of inspires me, sort of gets me going. And again, to what I was saying earlier about, whether or not you should share your moments, definitely, because sometimes I'll see or read, or sometimes I'll even hear something in the radio, and it's always the most inconvenient time when you're driving. I'm so thankful for these voice recorders on my phone, because I'm just like, okay, look, I normally have the headphones on, so I usually just press it, and then the voice activation comes on for you. And for you Apple people, it's Siri. For the Google people, it's Google. I don't know if Google has a name, but I usually, press the thing and we'll say like voice recorder, and I'll record the clip really fast. But sometimes it's good to just record whatever it is at that moment. I've had, both instances. I've had times where I've written something down, and every once in a while I try to go back through my journal and see what I wrote down, see what I was thinking. Um, and sometimes I'll read something and, I'll just bypass it. It won't mean anything to me. Sometimes a couple of months later, I'll go back and I'll see the same thing, and all of a sudden it just has a huge impact on where I am. Or I might even find it to be useful for someone else, or it might even be something that triggers a topic of conversation for you guys. And that's kind of what happened here. I had this quote, wrote it down. It resonated with me at some point, and I just came across it again recently. What I need to get good at doing, and this is a tip for you guys, is write down where you got it from, because I would really like to reference, give credit where credit is due. But sometimes, just in passing, like I said, sometimes it's even driving, I just do a quick, voice recording. But this was a quote by Zig Ziglar, and I love him. He has really great thoughts, really great ideas. I love his outlook on life. So I actually, sometimes I'm telling you, like, there's a guy that I really like to listen to, but I can't remember his name. It's usually Zig Ziglar. So if I say that again, just shout out his name. He's probably up there. But this is a quote by Zig Ziglar, and I actually sometimes I inadvertently quote him because he's influenced and impacted so many people. Tony Robbins, again, I'm just horrible with names, but a lot of um, the the speakers, they will share his thoughts. He's kind of like, the granddaddy of positive thinking. And anyway, he has this quote, and he said that what you picture in your mind will go to work to accomplish. When you change your pictures, you automatically change your performance. Whatever you attach consistently to the words I am, you will become. And I really, really like that quote. You guys know I'm all about your belief window and all about your thoughts. And last week, even, we were talking about how your thoughts shape your reality. And some of you were like, no, it just doesn't. And I was like, okay, great. Believe what you want to believe. I'm just sharing, my experiences and what I've seen for myself, and what other successful people have seen in their lives. And let me tell you, side thing, don't follow the unsuccessful people. We kind of have to stop quoting our aunts, mothers, uncles, jobless, lifeless, social network less, ain't got nothing, like just ain't got no money to pay the bills, no credibility, no credit. Stop. Just stop following the people who are not going anywhere. And I kind of catch myself on this because I'm at the point now where people sometimes come and tell me, oh, my aunt, they said this, and this. And sometimes I just want to be like, okay, well, what is it that your aunt does? Watches Jerry Springer all day? Is this really a credible source? Really? Really reliable? I have to stop myself because that's rude, but that's kind of just where I want to be. But I'd like to read the quotes by people like Zig Ziglar, people who are successful. And I love to read success stories. I am not the person who will sit down and watch, like, sometimes it's news, sometimes it's reality TV, but it's like the lives of people who are just not really growing. You guys know who I'm talking about. I don't even need to call names. We all have them in our lives. We all have them in our on our TVs, in our magazines, in our books, and our radios. And it's just like, what now? What is the problem? So don't follow those people. Attach yourself to people who are going somewhere, like Zig Ziglar, because he has a mindset of where on of and where his mindset is that your belief window and the things that you put into your mind has such a strong impact on your thoughts and your reality. It becomes so important that we put the proper things in. It's like, when you're trying to eat right now, Avon has Aspira, so we're all thinking about eating our, we're more conscious about our eating habits. We're thinking about eating healthily. We're, doing the smoothies and the protein shakes in the morning. We're going for walks because, we need that mild exercise and dieting habits to see the results that we want to see. So we've sort of gotten into that mindset, and it's the same thing with our minds. We want to put the right things into our brain in the same way that we want to put the right things into our body. I know this weekend I was binge eating the chocolate. I rediscovered those cookie ice cream sandwiches. So I was just inhaling those things, and you bet by like Monday, Tuesday, I started to see the results on my face. What I put in was starting to create the results. So it's the same thing with our mindset. We need to be really careful and sometimes guard and shield our mindset because we don't want to put garbage in, because guess what? That's what comes out. So what Zig Ziglar is saying here is that we really need to focus on the things that we want to accomplish and create a picture. So when you hear us talking about creating our dream boards and visualizing, closing our eyes, visualizing what it is that we want, who's there with you, how do you feel, how do the people around you feel, that is you creating the picture. We are, as human beings, we can visualize and picture things better when we use all five of our senses. That's why when you watch a commercial and they're trying to sell you a burger, they're showing you how juicy it is. They cut into it and the juices squeeze out. They've got the little steam rising off of it, so you start to imagine your visual and what is that? Nasal senses tune in, and you're like, you're imagining the smell. They have that sizzle on the grill to get your hearing. So they're, trying to hit all five of your senses, and you just want to taste it. Your brain is even like creating the taste on your tongue. Why am I talking about food so much? Probably because I can't have any of this stuff. But it's the same thing. You want to create that picture with your dreams and goals, and you want to make it as real as possible, and you want to revisit it, because if you constantly put in your goals and put in your dreams and your accomplishments, and you're constantly visualizing them, it becomes real to you. So you start to see it, and then you start to think of how it makes you feel, and you start to think of, what does it taste like to experience that, and that begins to make it real in your life. But I find that with a lot of us, before we even get to that point, we just bring like a cold hard stop, and we prevent ourselves. We put the brakes on, prevent ourselves from even going to that place, because we tell ourselves, well, we're still listening to Aunt or Uncle Flo, who's not going anywhere, not doing anything differently, and constantly stuck in the same place. And, well, they couldn't, so we're not. We don't have what it takes to be that. Well, what does it take? What does it really take? And why don't you have that? If you don't have what it takes, how can you get that? So you need to kind of take a step back and be conscious of those moments where you're letting this negativity impact your mind. So um the second part of this quote is, when you change your pictures, you automatically change your performance. Kind of reminded me of a conversation I had with a friend. They're also in the same profession as I am. They're in the architectural design profession, and we've known each other for a while, so we've seen each other's growth. And we were talking the other day, and so this is kind of tough, but basically, in our day job, in our field, there are tools that we use. There are specific programs. I'm not marketing for any of them because they charge way too much, and they're a pain in my butt maybe 90% of the time. So no kudos to them. But there are specific programs that we use that are, for the most part, specific to our field, whether it's architectural design or construction, or plumbing, mechanical, structural. It's that whole building and design world. So this is a tool that many of us use, and there are different variations on it by different companies, different with different focuses. Some are focused more on architecture, some are focused more on engineering, structural design, whatever. So there are specific areas of concentration within each of these fields. But as you guys know, I'm within the architectural design profession. So we tend to use the programs that are geared towards either architecture or design. If you're familiar with my field, you probably know the programs I'm talking about. But again, not giving big ups to any of them. But I was talking to my friend, and they were describing the problem that they were having, not in a way that they weren't like, it's not that they were asking for help, it was just venting, which sometimes we need to do. But I kind of thought about it, and it was like a trigger in my brain that said, wait, we've had this conversation before. And I was like, wait, we've had this conversation before. And they're like, well, yeah, because, this, and this. And I said, well, why haven't you looked for an answer, a solution? Somebody's got to know how to do that thing. And all of a sudden, I must have grown two heads, because I became the enemy. And they were like, well, this thing is supposed to be made so that people can understand. And I've been using this for X amount of years. It should be easy to use. And I know I should know what I'm doing. And I was like, but do you? And they're like, what? Yeah, I know what I'm doing. I just don't know how to do that. And I was like, all right. Pulled out my phone, started to Google, because that's what I do when I find myself in a rut. Even like within Avon, within our conversations, sometimes I'll Google, and sometimes I'll even tell you guys, today's topic of discussion is this, this, and this. And one of the words that I hit on is this. This is the definition. That's me Googling because I'm trying to, hey, Milagros, thanks for joining us. But I'm trying to expand my knowledge and further my understanding. So I was like, all right, well, let's look at this. All of a sudden, a bunch of things popped up, and I said, okay, well, have you tried this? No, what's that? I was like, you don't use this? And they were like, no, I don't know what that is. I don't know. And I was just like, okay, well, let's try this. And I started to try to troubleshoot, but I found in my efforts to troubleshoot and help my friend that we weren't getting anywhere. I could feel it, but I couldn't put my finger on it. It was like a barrier, not just between us, but between them and the program. And I was like, okay, what is happening here? Explain this to me one more time. Let's see if we could figure it out. Didn't want to explain it. And I was like, do you want to? I thought we were trying to find the answer here. Do you want to find the answer or not? And they were like, well, I know what I'm doing. And I was just like, so we started this conversation out with you having a problem. Usually when there's a problem, there's something you don't understand, something you can't do. There's a little bit of a barrier between what you want to create and the steps that you need to take to do that. So we're looking for the steps, we're trying to find a solution, but now you don't want to do it. And we started to talk a little bit further about it, and I came to realize that they don't do any training outside of whatever training they did when they first started. Um, for me, whether it's architectural and design or Avon, I feel like I'm constantly learning stuff. Sometimes not on purpose. Sometimes I'm like, I just want to turn everything off. But you guys will hear me share things with you guys that I learned from my day job. And there are things I take into my day job that I've learned from being in a business by myself, that I've learned from coaching and mentoring my team, from working with other experienced leaders, from doing my own personal development. There are things, business is business. So the things that you learn in either one cross over and you have growth. But I was realizing with this person, I kept asking questions because I'm stubborn like that. I was like, but we have a problem. We need to find a solution. If you keep talking to me about this problem, I don't want to do this again in 6 months. So let's just clear it up right now. Let's figure out what it is, what's going on. And they were just like, I don't do any of that. And I was like, how could you not? This is our profession. Like right now, we both have our two jobs. If God forbid anything happens and we need to go back into the workforce and look for other jobs, we need a certain type of skill set to be able to put on our resumes and update and move on to the other place. And I was like, okay, right now where you are, you understand what you're doing. You have enough knowledge to scrape by because you're doing the same things every day. But what happens when something new gets put in front of you? How do you adapt? And I realized in discussion that they don't. And I kind of just had a moment where I was like, this is not where I want to be in 10 years. This is not the picture of who I want to be. And I don't know how I came across this quote. I came across it this evening while I was going through my notes, but I just found it interesting that this person has kind of already shaped and molded where they want to be. Their picture is just that and only that. There's no room for growth, no room for development. They've limited themselves to the block of knowledge that they have now. And I find it funny because sometimes when we talk about creating your picture of what you want to be, sometimes, especially when I'm working with new representatives, it's not quite there. But most of the time, we know what we don't want to be. And I sometimes if I'm working with a new rep and we're trying to create their goals and their dreams, and we're talking about, okay, what would you do? My favorite question that I love to ask new teammates is, like, I'll kind of just sit back and say, okay, what would you do if you were a millionaire? What would you do if you had $1 million? You're the next Oprah. Money is of no object. What would you want to do? Because that usually kind of helps them take a step back and say, okay, wait, if money is no object, and by saying, you're the next Oprah, that's someone they could visualize who has money, who's just got money, money. And it helps them visualize this person. And then they could kind of get into, well, I kind of would like to travel, or I don't know, I've kind of been thinking about starting an orphanage. That's something that I would love to be able to do, help some children in a foreign country. And they start to think about the things that we we kind of squash. They start thinking about those big dreams. But sometimes I'll be working with the person, and it's just not happening. It's not connecting. Either they're too afraid to go there because it just seems so like impossible. It seems like such a ginormous goal that they'll never hit it. They're just so afraid to verbalize it. So sometimes I'll say, okay, well, why don't we instead start with what you don't want to be? What don't you want to happen in your life? Where don't you want to see yourself and your family in the next 5 years? And usually they're like, well, I don't want to be in debt anymore. I don't want to be living in the same house. I don't want to be around with this certain group of people. I don't want my children around this group of people. And they're just like, well, I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. And then we could say, okay, so if you don't want these things, if you don't want to live here, where do you want to live? And then they'll start to describe the neighborhood. And I'll say, okay, well, if you don't want to be around these kinds of people, what do the people you want to be around look like? Well, how do they dress? What do they eat? Where do they go? Where do they hang out? What describe those people to me? And sometimes they'll even say, oh, like these people. I don't know, for example, Hamptons people. And I'll say, I don't know what that means. What's a Hamptons person? I know you guys are probably watching like, I don't know what that means. What is a Hamptons person? But then they'll start to describe, oh, the people who hang out in the Hamptons or vacation in the Hamptons. And, they've got an image in their mind of, this person on vacation, I don't know, on a yacht. Do they yacht in the Hamptons? Probably, on a yacht for vacation with the kids. So, and that helps them to start to form the picture. So those of you who are working with new reps, feel free to use that. It's all yours. But I kind of had this moment when I was talking to this person. I was like, this is not where I want to be. I do not want to be the person who has this limited block of knowledge and doesn't want to expand beyond that, because I do personal development. I read magazines. I I don't as much now as I did in the past, but I used to, if there were events in my area, I would go, I would connect with other people, I would network just to expand my knowledge. Sometimes even over the wine and cheese, the buffet, you strike up a conversation with someone, they share a little nugget of knowledge. Maybe the whole presentation I didn't pick up anything from, and maybe it didn't really interest me, but I meet a person and they might mention that they're working on a thing, and a couple of months down the line, I might end up working on something similar and be able to say, oh, this person was saying that, and this is how they overcame that. And now I could deal with my problem. And I was realizing my friend just didn't do that, didn't plug in, didn't get connected. And I kind of thought about you guys, my team, my Avon family. And I always say to you guys, if you want to be successful, get connected. By coming in and doing the training, yes, Milagros, thank you. The possibilities are endless, but sometimes you just need to visualize, right? They're earning more. But yeah, so sometimes I'll say to you guys, get connected, get plugged in. And I don't even know if you guys really know what I mean by that, but it's more than, yeah, I opened my account, I'm working. Because this person is working day in, day out, every day, 9 to 5, at their job, at their desk, doing what it is that they do. They're working, but they're not really plugged in, not connected. They're not growing. They're not even creating the room for growth within their life. And as we start to get, I wouldn't let up. But because I was just like, I need to understand. I need you to either understand the answer that I'm trying to explain to you, or I need to understand why you can't understand the answer I'm trying to explain to you. And we kept talking about it and going in circles, but to them, it was a waste of time to learn. It was a waste of effort. They just weren't interested in it. And I realized that there wasn't the room for growth, that any dream that they would have beyond being where they are now wasn't going to happen, at least not in that profession and not in that field, until they turn that switch on and say, okay, no, I'm open, I need to grow. They were like a rock in water. Oh, that's good. Yes, I didn't realize, but I'm thinking I'm about to compare it to a sponge. But what does a rock do in water? It goes, it just and sinks, right? Drops to the bottom of the pond, just kind of sits there. It's there, it's in the water, but it's not absorbing anything. Hey, Anitra, thanks for joining. They're not absorbing anything, they're just there. As compared to a sponge, when you think of a sponge is open. You know, they allow the outside to come in. And what happens when a sponge allows that to happen? When they let the outside come in, they expand, right? A sponge, when it's dry, it's a tiny little shriveled thing. Look at our little beauty blenders. Mine is dirty because I used it this morning, but it's a tiny little thing. When I submerge it in water, it'll expand and be a nice, big, soft, puffy thing. But then, when it's put in the water, you take a sponge, you push it down, it absorbs the water, it expands, it gets bigger, and then what happens? It rises to the top. You know, it becomes so full of knowledge and knowing its surroundings that it can float because it's created that room for growth. So what do you want to be? Do you want to be the rock that you throw into the pond that sinks to the bottom? Maybe even skids across the top if you kind of wing it the right way. But it'll come in. Eventually, it's just going to drop. It doesn't absorb the water around it. It's there in its surroundings, but it's not going anywhere. And a sponge, on the other hand, you could put it in, you could hold it down even, but eventually it's going to rise to the top. You could stand there for a good hour. Try it. No, don't try it. It's a waste of time. But take my word for it. You can hold the sponge down, fill a bucket of water, put a sponge in take a dry sponge, put it inside, hold it down at the bottom for a couple of minutes, and then let go. It'll rise to the top. Do it again. Hold it down for a few more minutes. It'll eventually rise to the top. Sponges rise to the top. That's what they do. So we want to be sponges. We want to be the kind of people that create the room for growth in our lives. We want to be the Zig Ziglar people who are creating the right mindset, who are creating. I should really kind of every time I do like journals, I want to put tabs, and then I have like a million tabs, and then it doesn't. It kind of defeats the purpose. But and I know in a few months this quote is not going to have as much impact on me as it does now because right now I'm, connecting it to these conversations. But you want to be the sponge that is absorbing what's around it and using it to get towards its goal. That's focused on rising to the top and leveraging the tools around it to get there. And by tools, I mean the trainings, the coachings, the classes. Right now, we have so many resources in our business. Avon is doing the Facebook Live. They are doing Avon University, which I love, by the way. Who here is doing Avon University? I try to get it in, at least 15 minutes a week. I'm doing it little by little, but I'm doing it. So how many people here are trying Avon University? What do you guys think of the classes? Are you guys excited about that? Give us a shout out if you're loving Avon University. Many of us, our teams, our mentors, our coaches are doing trainings, whether it's online or in person, face to face, but they're there. The Avon website, in and of itself, if you get on there, if you get into yoravon.com and click on stuff, just poke around. There's so much information. There's FAQs and details and flyers and stuff for you to download and put away. We also live in the social media era where you can Google your questions. Just put your question in a Google and read through the answers they give you. If you're having trouble with something, and sometimes I'll do this, if I find myself, encountering a stumbling block in my life, I'll put in how to overcome X, Y, and Z. And there are talks. There are, Zig Ziglar, Les Brown, Darren Hardy, Tony Robbins. There are so many, great speakers out there. You can hear a lot of their messages online now. It used to be in the past. This is before my time, or maybe when I was little. But there would be a speaker who would come to Madison Square Garden. And that would be the only time that you saw that speaker. If you live in a small town, you might even have to drive to another town to see them. But that barrier is gone now. You can find a lot of these talks online. A couple years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, Darren Hardy came to speak with Avon at the National Avon Conference, and I had pages and pages of notes from him. And then when it was all over, I was like, man, kind of wish I had recorded that because I know there were things that I missed. But at the time, he had a CD in our Avon starter kit. And even as an established rep, I listened to the CDs and I tried to learn and grow from them. And eventually I found that it was online. There was a YouTube video for it. I was just like, wow, okay. So all this time, this was just here. I didn't have to wait for the CD. I didn't have to go and travel to the conference. And these are all things that are available to you as well. But you kind of have to go for it. You have to, hey, Clarissa, thank you for joining us. You kind of have to put yourself in the mindset of a sponge where you're ready to absorb knowledge. And I get it. A lot of us are holding down multiple jobs and raising kids, and we have husbands and wives and day jobs and night jobs and evening jobs and part-time jobs and weekend jobs and activities for school, for church, for temple, for mosque, for community activities. There's a lot happening. I get that, but you have to decide for yourself where you want to be. Is all of that activity going to be an excuse? Is that going to be the water that surrounds you and helps you fall to the bottom? Or are you going to use all of that to leverage your growth? Are you going to use the events that you're involved in to connect to people and talk to them, to share your business and learn about their business and learn about how you and your business can impact them and their goals and the community and the neighborhood you live in? Are you the sponge who's absorbing and using it to rise to the top? And I like to just kind of throw in lift the other people around you, because that is my mindset. Always, not just, I want to rise up and I want to be better than everybody, but I want to grow and I want to pull the other people around me up too. I want to be a sponge that's connected to other sponges, in the ocean. We all kind of rise together. So I kind of just throw that in. It doesn't really go with the sponge analogy, but you get me. So, you kind of have to think about not just what your obstacles are, because a lot of times we focus on that too much. And again, preaching to the choir here, that is me sometimes. But if we allow ourselves where we're only recycling the negatives and the we can'ts and the we're nots and it's not happening, and oh my gosh, it's a terror, it's a nightmare, then we're not creating the room inside for the good stuff to come in, to create that beautiful picture of our dreams and goals to come in. And sometimes I'm at odds because I'm like, I don't see it. Milagro says it's not on paper, but the growth is there. Sometimes I'm frustrated with myself because I'm like, I don't see it. It's not here. But what I hold on to is what's there. My boss calls it borrowing from the future. Sometimes my future is going to be in debt with the amount of borrowing that I'm doing right now, but thankfully it's a good thing. Thoughts, there's no end to thoughts, so I could borrow from the future as much as I want, and I know it's my future is not going to be ruined. It's just only going to improve my future. So I'm borrowing from my future to improve my present so that my future can get even better and better. So I want to encourage you guys to keep those two things in mind. And I want to throw in another quote. Do you guys want me to read that other quote again? If you do, I mean, you can always replay this video, but that quote by Zig Ziglar, that was a good quote. But there's another one that I want to share with you guys, and it's by Confucius. My mom always jokes and says Confucius says, from a character from a show I think in the 70s. But this is a quote by Confucius, who says, "The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones." So I want to kind of connect that to what we're talking about today, because it's easy to say, okay, yeah, think positive, whatever. We kind of know that, but we don't really do it. It's easy to say, okay, learn a lot of stuff. All right, I'm getting up, I'm going to work, I read the paper, I'm learning stuff, right? But you have to be intentional about your learning and your growth. So according to what Confucius says, he's saying that if you want to move a mountain, which is what we're doing right now, we are moving mountains. We're doing what sounds impossible. We're overcoming the obstacles that are in front of us, that whether it's obstacles that we project or obstacles that other people have put in front of us. But the goal is not to just say, okay, yeah, great, I have got a mountain. the goal is to get over, around, under, or just move the mountain. Just move the mountain person because I'm just like, I don't like to walk, I don't like to exercise. Let's just move the mountain. So what Confucius is saying is that if you want to move a mountain, you have to move it little by little. Whoever's goal is to move a mountain, nobody's strong enough to pick up a mountain and move it. We start chipping away. And really and truly, picture it when they want to build a tunnel through a mountain, say maybe to build a road or um, to build a railroad. What do? They come out with the pickaxes and the shovels, and they start shoveling away. Sometimes they'll dynamite it, blow a hole in it. But then what do they still have to do? The rocks don't just evaporate. We're not at that point yet. People come behind with the pickaxes and the shovels, and they put it in the carts and they cart it away. But what is it? It's little by little. It's the tiny stones. It's those small things. So we need to create the small things in our lives that help us to accomplish the goals that we want. So tonight we were talking about starting off with your mindset. Create your dream board. I say it a million times. And I know some of you are listening and have done it, and then you never look at it because I did that. When I first got started, everybody said create a dream board. So I was like, okay, I could clip some pictures and stick on a piece of paper. To this day, I don't know where that dream board is, which goes to show you how much it meant to me. Now, my dream board is the background for my phone. Stay out my business. But it's so I have you know how you can scroll your the little windows on your screen. You can usually pan and create different windows. So I just have a blank window. My entire background is my dream board. But so even when I'm looking for my apps, being distracted in the day during social media, I can see the pictures coming through in the background. And then I'll scroll over to the blank page sometimes when I'm on the train or just sitting, and I'll look at it. And I can actually say one of the things on my dream board was to earn the cruise to the Bahamas. So that's something I can look at and say, okay, yes, I did it. There's also another goal on here. I didn't realize it until I'm looking at it now. Another goal that I had hit for the first 3 months of the year was a small goal that I had scheduled for myself. That's part of a huge goal, a bigger goal. I achieved that as well. So sometimes it's nice to, have your dream board in front of you. And my phone is practically glued to my hand, so it's here with me. The next thing to do is to visualize yourself achieving your goals. It's not enough to clip the papers and put them on a piece of paper because the paper alone is meaningless. If you're doing it on your computer, I also recommend that a lot of us have the Pinterest boards. I did that too. I could find it for you, but I don't even really know what the photos are. I can describe this dream board to you with my eyes closed because I look at it. But that dream board on Pinterest, print it out. Print out all the photos, clip them out, put them somewhere. It's not the act of printing and clipping and sticking to the piece of paper that's important. It's the mindset you're in when you're doing it. Because when you're looking for photos, like for me, I could have clipped out an apartment, and yeah, apartment is one of the things on my dream board. Condo overlooking the water in a nice tropical climate. But I could just clip any apartment and stick it on there. But you have to force yourself to do is say, okay, well, what does my decor look like? Am I getting the ratty apartment with the couches that look stained and dirty, and where the the floorboards are coming up, and there's clothes and I don't know, crazy stuff, and maybe that's a pet snake underneath that pile of clothing. I don't want that picture. So I keep scrolling, and I find one with the type of furniture that I like, the type of views that I like, a nice layout, architectural designer. I want it to look a certain way. Not necessarily like feng shui, but I want things to line up. I want the windows to be a certain size. I want it to be overlooking a certain direction. Now, I may not end up in an apartment that looks like that, but it's created for me. When I even thinking about it, if you took my post right now, you could probably feel I'm excited even talking about it and even thinking about it because I picture myself in there. I picture my family in there. So I picture myself sitting at the window and sipping out of my Avon mug. These are the ideas that I conjure. That I think of to when I think of these images. So what's important to you is having ideas and dreams that connect and resonate to you. Miss Milagro says that her dreams are also on her calendar for the month, and she can see them every day on that month. That is good, Milagros. Thank you for sharing. That's another thing that I do in my daily planner. When I start my day, when I start my week, as a matter of fact, I lay out the steps for the things that I need to do. At the beginning of my planner, I have a list of my goals for my planners come in 90-day groups. So in the beginning of the planner, I list out my goals for overall 5 years, 10 years, like my big rock goals. And then I break it down into, okay, what are my goals? By the end of this planner, I want to accomplish this, this, and this. And then on a weekly basis, I kind of write down, what are the things that I need to do this week? I need to do some training. I need to do some coaching. I need to reach out to certain people. I'm sliding on my Avon U training, whatever. I need to get back into that. Maybe I haven't reached out to a certain group of customers in a while. I need to do that. So those are things that I put on my weekly list. And then daily in the morning, first thing I do is things that I am grateful for. And then I do, what are my tasks that I need to do today? What are the big important tasks that have to be done by the end of the day? What are the other things that need to be done? But right up there, I just rewrite my goals. What are the things that I want to accomplish for the next 90 days? I just rewrite them over and over again. And Milagros, you are so right. The other day, I had stopped journaling for a while. I don't know. I just checked out. Wasn't writing every day like I had been. And then I got back into it, and I was like, oh shoot, that was one of my goals. I got to do that. You know, I've lost ground on that. I need to gain ground again. So rewrite your goals, as Milagro says. Put them on your calendar. Put them somewhere where you'll see them at that moment. Because if you set your goals and you don't visualize them, you don't picture them, you don't come back and revisit them, you'll be at the end of the year again. And guess what? No progress towards that goal. You'll just totally forget that you had it. I stopped journaling for a couple of days and I was like, shoot, I forgot that I needed to do that goal. So, you wanna do that as well. Um, Also create your action steps. What are the things that you need to do to get yourself towards those goals? You have to have things to do to get yourself to that goal. And action steps is a word that I use a lot. And if you don't know what action steps mean, look through our videos. I've shared different tips for how to build your business, making a plan. And if it's a how-to video, it usually involves action steps for me. But basically, action steps are the things that you're doing to get yourself to your goal. So if, for example, your goal is to lose weight, an action step would be to exercise, to eat, to alter your diet so that you're eating less than you consume. If your goal for the year is to meet new people, that was one of my goals for these last 2 years, to be more active in community events, to get out there and connect with people more often. Guess what? If your goal is to know more people, you actually have to get out and connect with people, which might mean, pre-planning, finding events in your neighborhood that interest you, finding clubs and activities, networking and social events. Maybe it means joining a group, joining a sewing class, a soccer club, a chess club, participating in activities in your local library. Thanks, Anitra. She said the road. She's on the road back to PA, but she's saying dream boards are also essential. Um, but yeah, you need to, what is it that if you don't have what you want formed, you're not going to be able to create action steps. Your steps are going to be all over the place because they're not that linear path to get you to your goal. You're going to be all over zigzagging, doing different kind of crazy things, but you're just going to find yourself going in circles. If you have something that you're working towards, it makes it easier for you to say, okay, what are the things that I need to do? Okay, I could do this, but is that really going to get me closer to my goal? Maybe I could postpone that or delegate that or, put that off for later on in life. Maybe I could do this goal. No, that's not really getting me closer to my goal, but this is, all right, I'm going to do that. What about doing this thing? Is that going to get me? No, that's getting me further from my goal. And, it kind of helps you stay on path, but you have to have that goal that you're working towards daily in front of you so that, or like Milagro said, on your calendar so that you can constantly be working towards it. and it will help channel your actions and your activities, your mindset. If you don't even believe that you're going to get it, forget it. Everything that I'm telling you now is moot, because either you're gonna leave this call, this training. One of these days, I'm gonna stop saying calls. I've been doing calls for years, and it's not sticking. You're gonna leave this training or this live stream, and it's just gonna be gone because it's not a priority. It means nothing to you. If it's something, that's why you want it to be tangible and resonate with your feelings and emotions, and bring something up inside of you, so that you're like, yeah, I want to do this. You wake up in the morning like, yes, I've got to do this. This is what I need to do. As you're going through your day and distractions are happening, I'm always telling one of the people in my office, you need to stop putting out fires. What is it that you need to do right now? Is this going to help you do that? No. Is this going to help the client with their project? No. Then don't do it. And sometimes they're like, Georgia, you're so callous. And I'm like, time, you cannot get that back. You cannot replace this. I'm not callous. I'm frugal. I am especially frugal with my time. I'm not letting anybody waste it. If I decide to waste my time binge watching Netflix on the weekend, or whatever, that is my choice. I will pay the consequences later on. I know that. But you really have to be like that about your time and your effort, because at the end of the day, it's gonna go. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. We all have the same amount of time. We have to be really strict with it. Milagro says, choose your big rocks and stay focused on your goals. Thank you. Perfect quote. Yes, I love that analogy of your big rocks. What are your big rocks that you're putting into your calendar, into your monthly plan, your daily plan, or even your hourly plan? Sometimes it boils down to the minute. You've got an hour. Sometimes I find myself with an hour on the train. Can I, what am I going to end up doing? Can I call some leads? Can I reach out to some of my teammates? Can I reach out to some customers? These are things that are going to get me closer to some of my goals. I can study. That's something that's going to get me closer to another goal. Going on a shopping spree is going to bring me further from my goals. I'm going on a shopping spree for things that I don't need is going to bring me further from my goals. Scrolling mindlessly through Instagram is not going to get me closer to my goals. If I'm using it to, create posts for my business, to comment on other posts for other people in a similar field, things like that, then I'm making that, I'm captivating that and making that something that is going to get me closer to my goal. But without me having that goal, I'm not going to say, okay, wait, what am I doing here on Instagram? Let me work because I need to move towards my goal. I'm just going to be on Instagram because I have no goal. And that, I think, is what's going to separate us from the aunts and uncles who aren't really going anywhere or doing anything and just kind of here. They talk about everything, they know everybody's business. Their goal is not to progress. Their goal is to be in people's business. We all have them, we all know who they are. Your goal is to progress, not to be in people's business, not to be wasting time, not to be, getting caught into the negative mindset or in the problems of these people. Sometimes you just need to say, aunt, uncle, cousin, whatever, I don't have time for this. It is what it is. But you just have to be so conscious of guarding your most valuable asset, because everything that is going to happen around you, well, not everything that happens around you, but when it comes to your goals and your dreams and your progress and accomplishing the things that you set out to do, it starts up here. And if you don't have it right up here, it's going to be harder for you to move forward. You're going to be stuck until you get yourself in the place where you can visualize and take the action steps to do the things that you need to do. So move those small rocks. Start small with your plan. Create your goal, create your plan, do your action steps. We always talk about practicing the power of 5. And I know sometimes, especially when I'm talking to new reps, they're just like, what's 5 people a day gonna do for me? That's just a small thing. Give me the hard stuff. And I'm like, you can't do the hard stuff until you can do the small stuff. For me, that's what I realized. If you're doing just the big and the hard stuff, you're going to do it occasionally and you're not going to see the growth and the traction that you need in the long run. But if you could get yourself doing the small stuff daily, weekly, if you can't do the power 5, I always say do the power 25 on the weekend. Sometimes I understand we're just not in the mood to do power 5 daily. If you miss 5 on a day, add that 5 in on Saturday. If you go the whole week and don't do the power of 5, catch back up on Saturday. Do the power of 25 on Saturday. You know, bank some a little extra for the week. Do the power of 30 just because you can. You know, have fun with it. But unless you can get yourself to the place where you're consistent, it's all, you know, it's all fun and games to do the big flash and the bang. And you know, we always meet up with the people. I was actually talking with another friend the other day about those people who are, you know, just like, yeah, everything is great and wonderful, I can do this, this is easy, I got this, we're out there, we're doing the hard stuff, yeah, 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 rah, rah, rah. 3 months later, whatever happened to so and so? Are they still around? No, I haven't seen them. Haven't heard from them. Are they still doing what they need to do? I don't know. You know, you don't want to be that person either. So just start with the small rocks. And those things will snowball into bigger rocks. But you've got to start with the small things. Gina says she made a goal board on Sunday. Awesome. So, Gina, we're going to put that board somewhere where we could see it, right? We're going to refer to it weekly, daily, hourly to keep us motivated, right? I hope Breakfast is on that board. I'm just throwing you on the bus, right? I'm messing with you. But so yeah, that's our topic of discussion for tonight. Those two quotes I kind of wanted to let you guys think about and marinate on because it's just so important for you to be in the right mindset and be conscious of the power that your mind has over the things that you say and do and the power of those small action steps. Be, you know, just be mindful of those two things as we go through the upcoming week, and you know, try to catch those moments where your mind is being thrown off course or where you're taking a detour from those small action steps. Whenever your action steps, hey Kat, whenever your action steps are not lining up with your goals or your big rocks, as Malakos calls them, get yourself back in line, get yourself back in check, remind yourself, rewind this video, go back and write down the quote that I gave you somewhere. I'm actually thinking now I'm going to write it somewhere. I have a board over here. I think I might just put it there to remind myself as well. Because, like I said, I get thrown off too. As much as I would love to not have that happen, then, you know, I mean, it's up to me. It starts with me, which is something else we always talk about as well. And you know, we have to get to that point where we're not like my friend who has it in his mind. Oh shoot, in their mind. Whatever. You don't know him. Uh, hopefully they'll watch my channel. But you know, this person has it in their mind that it's everybody else's fault and that they know everything there is to know or everything that's relevant and they're not making the room for growth. You don't want to be that person either. So keep the mindset of the sponge in front of you. If you have to get a little sponge and put it somewhere that you can see it to remind you, you know, Georgie said, don't be the rock, be the sponge. Then, and which is like kind of the opposite of what I'm always talking about, because I'm always like, you want to have that strong foundation. In today's discussion, you are allowed to be the squishy sponge, but you want to have those mental cues to keep you on track towards your goals. The quotes, the dream boards for visual, the sponge again for visual. These are just things that will help you to overcome the small obstacles and the barriers that arise, because we all deal with them and we all deal with them in different ways. And what I'm sharing with you today is just one other way to help you overcome those things. Because once you can get past those roadblocks, you're going to make room in your life, like the sponge, to absorb the things that you need to move forward and find success. But if you're not allowing, you know, for that absorption, then you're not going to grow. You're not going to float. You're not going to rise to the top as fast. You know, until you do. Maybe right now you're not, but you hopefully hit that moment where you're like, okay, wait, I remember Georgie said X, Y, and Z. Georgie. Kat. Oh, Kat also said travel is on her board as well. Awesome. Travel was on my board too. And I'm actually getting to do that through Avon. And I will tell you, you know, we're talking about mindset. I never thought that I would be one of the people who earns the trips and the incentives through Avon. But what changed was when I said, shoot, I want to be one of those people. Why can't I be? How can I get there? I want to be one of those people. And, you know, I started to do the things that I needed to do, which again are small things. working with my teammates, learning from other experienced representatives, going to the classes and the workshops and the trainings, reading books, planning when Avon comes out with incentives. What do I need to do? How do I get there? Kind of putting them together. So hopefully this kind of helps you guys flesh out or overcome some of these obstacles that we're dealing with. And I hope that it will help you to see that these mountains in front of us, even though they may look big and scary and solid and like they're never going to move, just get out your little pickaxe and your shovel and, chip away at it little by little. It's better to start, like we said last week, the time will go, whether it's a week or a month. That week or month is going to pass anyway. At least spend it chipping away at that mountain. At the end of the week or month or year, you'll be a lot further than you were if you just stood at the base of the mountain like, wow, this mountain is huge. You don't want to be the person like my friend who's just there like, this mountain, it's just so huge. And that's all they want to talk about, how huge the mountain is and how, the mountain isn't going anywhere. Meanwhile, on the other side of the mountain, like, there's not a problem. I found you a tunnel. All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining me. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on our upcoming events. The cruise to Bermuda. I said Bahamas throughout this entire video, didn't I? The cruise to Bermuda. Bear with me. Bahamas was my first trip. That's going to resonate with me for a long time. The cruise to Bermuda, Avon Rep Fest, our local trainings. Yes, Kat, you can do this. You can do this. That's what we're talking about here. It is possible. Clarissa says that's what she's working on now. After struggling for a year with spinal injury and finally surgery, she's reboosting her dreams and goals in business. Clarissa, I will see you at the end of the year closer to your goals. Claim it. You could do it. I believe in you. I know the other people on this chat believe in you. You have it now where you're doing what needs to be done, and you will, as long as you stick with that. You just have to, not let this be an excuse, which I don't think you're going to do. Today, actually, sorry, one last story, I promise. I got a text from one of my teammates. She had surgery last week, and she told me she was going in for surgery, so I didn't expect to hear from her. I was like, I'm going to leave her alone, let her heal. She texted me today, like, the orders were due. I called my order in from her hospital bed after surgery, like just a couple of days ago. She was like, I have to get my order in. I called it in, and I got it in. I didn't have computer access, but I had a phone. Very easily, her surgery could have been an excuse. It could have been a reason for her to say, well, I had surgery. I'm not going to do anything for the next 6 months and just get stuck on that. But she was like, I got customers. I got to, get my order in. I needed to hit this deadline. I need to put something in for campaign 9. I'm tracking for incentives. She got her order in. And I was just like, well, it was a text message, but I was just like, wow. So shout out to Sharina. Good on you for having your mindset on your business despite having surgery. And Miss Clarissa, I'm pretty sure I'm going to see you, doing amazing things too, because this surgery is like mountain that's already rubble, right? Kat, shout outs to you too. Who's fighting stage 4? Stage 2 cancer. Sorry, it's scrolling. Shout out to Kat, who's here doing training, trying to grow and better herself and build her business. So look at this. Look how many fighters. This is what I'm talking about. You guys have to share this stuff. Look how many fighters we have in our chat who have things that they could take and make into excuses and make into mountains, like huge things, surgeries, and overcoming cancer. I'm not even going to say fighting because you've already overcome it. We're going to claim that. And still moving forward. And sometimes it's me. I've been having car trouble, and I'm like, I can't do anything. But sometimes I meet up with a person, and they're like, oh yeah, Judge Judy's on right now. I can't work this business. I'm like, you guys are the ones that I give kudos to and chat up and talk about, because you guys are the inspiration for me. So shout out to Kat and Clarissa. Clarissa also calling from the hospital bed. Yes, that is a trend I like. Yes. All right, ladies, thank you so much for sharing and adding to this, adding value to this discussion. I am actually excited about seeing you guys overcome these obstacles and, these mountains in your lives, and hopefully getting to meet you guys in person one day, someday, hopefully soon. Just come up and give me a hug. I'm not a hugger, so if I'm resistant at first, just say who you are, and then I'll be like, "Oh yeah." Yeah, definitely impressed by your stories. Thank you guys for sharing that. And I hope that your stories encourage other people too, who might have been just like, yeah, no, life is so hard. Look at these girls, wherever your chat box is. So all right guys, so that's it. That's our discussion for this week. Thank you guys for coming in and chatting with me. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next week, same time, same place. And again, be sure to subscribe. I believe it's this box right here. It's my face. Click it, subscribe. Milagros is a hugger. I'm a New Yorker, so at first I'm like, wait, people, and then I'm like, oh, my Avon people. Yes. So yeah, guys, thank you for joining me. I will chat with you guys next week. Milagros really is a hugger. Have a great week, guys. I will see you soon. Bye.